Hi, my name is Danny Karp, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Wildlife, Fish, and Conservation Biology here at UC Davis. And I study conservation in agricultural landscapes. So how can we conserve wildlife alongside people in farms? So I'm a conservation biologist. Why would I focus on farming? It's the kind of #1 threat to wildlife globally, and historically sort of not viewed as a great place to have wildlife. And yet, I think there are these incredible opportunities. It's the place where we can cultivate these win-win solutions, where we can have wildlife alongside us, providing us benefits like pollination or pest control, assuming that we do the right kinds of practices. So that's kind of why I do what I do. My very first grant that I got actually right before coming to UC Davis was a federal grant from the United States Department of Agriculture. And it was looking at the role of birds on strawberry farms. So to understand the motivation for this, let's start with a story. Back in 2006, there was this really damaging E. coli outbreak that sickened hundreds of people and cost the industry hundreds of millions of dollars. The outbreak was traced back to a farm in California. And in particular, on this one farm, it was found in the soil and in the water, but then also in the feces of wild pigs. And that was the important part because it led industry to believe that wildlife were bringing these diseases onto the farms and were responsible for these outbreaks. So ever since then, there's been lots of pressure on farmers to remove the habitat around their farm fields and keep the wildlife out. Our federal grant was trying to look at what are the roles of these wildlife, in particular birds, on strawberry farms, and then later on other farms as well. Are they spreading these foodborne diseases? Are they eating the crops like strawberries? Or are they providing benefits like, eating insect pests, for example? So what did we find after all of this work? Well, we found that removing habitat actually didn't do anything for food safety, and if anything, would make things worse. It turns out that the good birds, the birds that are very unlikely to carry foodborne pathogens, are much more likely to be on the farms that have habitat surrounding them. On those farms, you also have a lot of birds that are eating more insects and eating fewer crops. Whereas if you're removing all of that habitat, you're actually promoting the species that are more likely to carry those foodborne pathogens and more likely to damage your crops. So here's a cool win-win situation. Conserving wildlife actually does good things for producing healthy and abundant food. We need to produce food to sustain ourselves in the United States and globally, right? That food needs to be healthy and not get us sick. But at the same time, we need to share these landscapes with all of the millions of creatures that have lived here before. We can't just have the wildlife off in these national parks. There are not enough of them. And we like interacting with these species. We like recreating and seeing them, hunting, or bird watching, all of these sorts of benefits. So by finding these strategies that growers can use to have the wildlife persist alongside us on these farms near our towns, it allows us to benefit from them and conserve these species and have safe and abundant food simultaneously. So much of our work has depended on federal funding. That work, all of those great insights into how to better manage agricultural land for people and nature, wouldn't be possible without federal funding. But beyond just the science, the work, all the outreach that we do to help popularize these practices, this funding is also training the next generation of scientists, of conservation practitioners that are out there trying to figure out solutions. So while this federal funding is vital to keep the actual work going forward, it's just as important to keep training our undergraduates, our graduate students, and our postdocs, the next generation of scientists and conservation practitioners, so that we can keep this work on sustainable agriculture, harmonizing biodiversity, and food production going now and into the future.